皆さん、こんにちは。英検1級二次試験練習動画です。2025年11月16日ですね。前回撮りましたのが11月1日ですので、2週間サボってしまいました。100本近くということでですね。この辺のスピードは緩めて、今までのやったことのお経スピーチですかね。で、主に70本目から96本目を毎日やるようにはしておるんですけど、最初の方も、2分間で言えないようになりましたね。よくできたもんで、発達というのはないかなというふうに思っております。97本目の、課題がですね、お題がですね、Are tariffs an effective tool for addressing trade imbalances ということですね。アドレスっていうのはちょっとわかりづらいんで、アベイトというふうに変えて、ちょっと、作ってみました。213号ですね。一回音読をしてみたいと思います。Whether tariffs are an effective tool for abating trade imbalances or not is a controversial debate, and my answer is clearly no. In fact, the US President Donald Trump has been imposing high percent of tariffs on many products in many countries, but it has a large scale of negative impact. Today, I'm going to talk about three things: high consumer prices, retaliation, and reduced competitiveness. First, let's talk about high consumer prices. The tariff leads to a decrease of cheaper imported goods. Also, even if some of them are imported, their price is higher by the tariff, and the price of domestic products is already high. As a result, consumers should buy goods at higher prices. Second, let's think about retaliation. The countries on which high tariffs are imposed will impose retaliatory tariffs on their counterparts. Also, they seek other trading partners which offer substitutes at lower prices. For example, Trump's tariff policy led to enhancing integration of BRICS groups and de-dollarization. Finally, protection by tariffs in some industries can allow them to become less competitive and less innovative in the long run. For example, the US car makers have been much weaker than Japanese, Chinese, and German car makers. In conclusion, tariffs have more negative impacts and are not effective. 1分半ですね。ダメっぽいな。はい。7回練習したんですけど、全然ダメです。はい、1回やってみます。あー Whether tariffs are an effective tool for abating international imbalances is a controversial debate, and my answer is clearly no. In fact, the US President Donald Trump has been imposing a high percent of trade tariffs on many products in many countries, but it has a lot of negative impacts. Today, I'm going to talk about three things: high consumer prices, retaliation, and reduced competitiveness. Firstly, let's talk about high consumer prices. The tariff leads to decrease of cheaper imported goods, and even if some of them are imported, uh, the price is higher by the tariff. Also, the domestic products are originally expensive, so consumers should buy goods at higher prices. Secondly, let's talk about retaliation. The countries on which a lot of tariffs are imposed will impose retaliatory tariffs on the counterparts. Also, they seek other trading partners which offer substitute at lower prices. For example, Trump's tariff policy has led to integration of BRICS countries and de-dollarization. Finally, let's talk about reduced competitiveness. Protection by tariff enables some industries to be less competitive and less innovative. For example, US car makers have been much weaker than Japanese, German, and Chinese car makers. In conclusion, tariffs has more negative impacts and are not effective. Thank you. 俺結構早く喋ったつもりなんだけどな。もう一回やってみるか。 whether tariffs are an effective way for abating trade imbalances is a controversial debate, and my answer is clearly no. In fact, US President Donald Trump has been imposing a high percent of trade tariff in many products in many countries. Today, I'm going to talk about three things: higher consumer price, retaliation, and reduced competitiveness. First, let's talk about high consumer prices. The tariff leads to decrease of cheaper imported products, and even if some of them are imported, the price is higher by the tariff. Also, the domestic products are originally expensive, so consumers should buy goods at higher prices. Secondly, let's talk about retaliation. The countries on which a large amount of tariffs are imposed will impose retaliatory tariffs on their counterparts, and they seek other trading partners which offer substitute at lower prices. For example, Trump tariff policy has led to integration of BRICS and de-dollarization. Finally, let's talk about reduced competitiveness. Protection by tariff enables some industry to be less competitive and less innovative. For example, US car makers have been much weaker than Japanese, Germany, and Chinese car makers. In conclusion, tariffs have more negative impacts and are not effective. Thank you. まあ、これでいいことにしましょう。では、ごきげんよう。さようなら。